Hey y'all, thanks for stopping by. So, over the last week, your news feed has probably been dominated with stories about this Oceangate submersible. They sent a crew down on Sunday to go to the bottom of the ocean and look at the Titanic, and we lost communication with them right after they went down. And according to the company and all their data on the ship, they had about 4 days of air, which, as of this morning, as of recording, that 4 day window has run out. Now, all the news coverage I've seen this morning, they are still calling it a search and rescue mission, which that's a good thing. That means they're optimistic that they're going to find people that they're going to be able to rescue. That's the whole point of the rescue part of search and rescue. Once they start calling it a recovery mission, that's when you can get the idea that they're not so optimistic anymore. Now, in all the coverage I've seen and that you've probably seen people saying the only reason this is in the news is because these guys are so rich. And I'm not going to tell you that they're not rich. $250,000 a seat to sit in this septic tank size ship to go to the bottom of the ocean. That's a lot of money, in my opinion. But they're not in the news just because they're rich. They're in the news because they're against the clock. That is normal when these stories happen. It sounds morbid to say, but we gravitate towards stories where people are running out of time. There was that Chilean mine cave in that happened about 10 years ago or so, and none of those guys were rich. They were all, coal miners, and that news story was all over the place. In 2018, there was that cave in Thailand. I want to say those were students. They were a dive team or a swim team, and that was all over the news when it happened. And those guys weren't rich. They were stuck somewhere. They were running out of air, and they couldn't get themselves out. That's the unifying factors with these three stories. So they're not in the news just because they're wealthy. Now they are very wealthy. This Oceangate stuff. And, when you look deeper into this Oceangate company, you start to see the problems that arise from this sort of ultra wealthy extremist tourism sort of stuff. Them specifically, their owner was very anti safety, it seemed like. He chose to go against the wishes of, there's a sort of community of these sort of deep sea diving groups, I guess you want to call them, that build these sort of ships to go down there. And he chose to not deal with them, to go on their own, so they didn't have to follow their regulations, so they didn't have to get this sort of approval. They had a whistleblower complaint about the Titan vessel, the one that's down there right now. Something about the viewport not being pressure rated, but for 1,500 meters, and the bottom of the ocean's like 4,000 meters down there. It's it's a very strange thing. You kind of get this, you feel bad because this is a terrible way to go. But then you look at their aversion to regulation and now their demand to be helped. This is kind of like, I'm reminded of this like American libertarianism and anarcho-capitalism of this. We're going to go out on our own. We're going to, regulation just holds us back. And then the moment things go bad, they demand to be helped by the government. They want to be bailed out and saved. And it's, it's a shame because this company, they're at the end of this, they're responsible for the people they sent down there. You know, I hope I hope they do get rescued. Just because, I don't, it's a terrible way to go. Suffocation. I I really hope they get pulled out. But if they don't, you know, this hyper wealthy tourism industry, this extremist, it's like the guys who go up into space for a little bit or let the Sherpas drag them up Everest so they can take the little selfie and say that they did something. I think it should be looked into, but this story isn't dominating your news because they're rich. I just, yeah, I see people saying that a lot and thought I should clear that up. But, until we get some more news about this, until we can really figure out what happened to these guys, y'all try to have a good day.